All right, let me just go to my groups, make sure we're, I think we are live. Hey guys, just a sec. I'm trying to get rolling here. I think we are live. Just making sure that we are totally live, and I believe we are. We are. Okay, so hey guys, it's Nicole. Guess what? My audio is working. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I had a total user error, and it's now fixed. So we are back. This is conversation 34, and I've got my friend Haley on today. The crazy thing is, conversation 34 was supposed to happen, I think 3 times before, and I was having total user error on the audio, but I have a little technical wizard who came over and showed me where my error was. And so now we are back with Conversations with Stay Wild Child. And this is Haley. Okay, so kind of I love how, so for me, I'm a God girl. Some people are source, some people are universe, whatever, your flavor is, totally cool. But I love the way that for me, God brings inspirations into my life. And that's truly what this show is about, this Stay Wild Child, Conversations with Stay Wild Child. It is really to help women remember who they are before the world told them who they were supposed to be. And Haley's cousin, which is one of my very best friends, Kelly, we met really just, I think it's just been a year now, and it's just been through social media. So Haley, you and I have actually not ever met in person. We've just met through social media, but Kelly's like, you gotta meet my cousin Haley. And I'm so glad that she listened to that whisper and she connected us, because you are, I was reading your bio before we got going today, and I was trying to shorten your bio a little bit just to get a few little lines. And I thought, how am I even going to shorten this? Because your story is so impactful, and I love the overcoming. I love the you stepping into your power. So I'll just, I'm trying to even think of how we're going to roll with this today, because you have a big, powerful story, and I want to ask you some questions. And I think we're just going to kind of flow, because that's usually how I do this. But just briefly, just introduce yourself and who you are right now, and then we'll go back just a little bit. Okay. So go ahead, Haley. Thanks for coming on. And you know what? You are a hard one to get on the show, because you were like,
I do. Everyone says that about my journey, is like, oh, you have to share your journey. And I feel awkward sharing my journey, because people are like, oh, you've gone through so much. But, when you go through it yourself, you're just kind of like, nah, it's just, you just do it and it just happens. So I am glad that people find inspiration from me, because I don't see it myself. So it's kind of awkward for me to talk about myself. So my name's Haley. I'm 42. I'm a Virgo. I'm an Earth child. Yes, fellow Virgo.
yes.
I'm in Amarillo, Texas. Grew up in Pampa, Texas, small little Texas panhandle town. And I grew up with 2 brothers, an older sister, a mom and a dad. Just typical life, I guess. And where I am now is I'm here in Amarillo. I am still finding my journey, and I'm kind of just letting it roll, just roll with the punches. I don't really have any big plans for the future. The only thing that I do have plans is just bettering myself and just seeing where it takes me. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. So
I love it.
And thank you for having me.
Of course. And I guess, did I miss your birthday, or did I say happy birthday to you on your birthday? What is the date?
The 18th.
18th. Okay. Oh, that's my Aunt Annette. She lives up in the Panhandle too.
Maybe
yeah.
One day.
Yes. Yeah. She's up in Friona. So.
Okay.
Yeah. She's great. All right. So I have shared a handful of Haley's photos, in our group, I always love, I don't know if you write what you're saying above your photos or if you've grabbed quotes from somewhere, or is it maybe just a
Kind
little
of
bit of mix?
a mix. Yeah, kind of a mix.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're a beautiful you're a beautiful yogi. Your postures are inspiring. You're a very flexy girl.
I work for that daily basis.
Yes. And you're very strong. You can definitely tell how centered you are because you are so powerful in your core from just the observation of the photos and watching the way that you do your photos. I love the arm balances. Like okay, so I'm 49, you're 42, right? Yeah. So I'm 49 and one of my
49.
goals is I want to do a handstand. And I was practicing it for a little while and then I kind of fell out of it. So I probably need to get back into that practice, but your handstands are like, oh, holy smokes, girl. But I've been doing aerial for a while. So I think I've kind of,
Yes,
I've gotten that arm strength. I've
that's
gotten
hard.
to the point, where like it's built. But you're
Yes,
right? It's just a practice.
it is. It definitely is. It's a life practice, just with anything else. And
Yeah.
just know that any pose never comes easy, right? And you talk about strength. So I do have that strength. So the thing that gets in my way is vulnerability, like
Ah,
to be vulnerable, to open your heart, like back bending and all that. That's just so difficult for me. But it's a practice. And I make
yeah.
sure that I practice it, just like with your aerial work. Oh, aerial is so hard, that pulling up action. I tried it once and my hands were sore, my forearms were sore. So
Really?
I was places I had never ever been in. And I give you props to that because that is hard work. So
Well, it was just a practice for me. I mean, I could barely pull myself up on the fabric, 2 years ago. And so I just, stayed consistent with it. And that is what I love about this life. Like we have this opportunity. And sometimes there's resistance in the practice, but we have this opportunity to step into this practice and we're literally all just practicing through
yeah,
life. And when you show up, it's consistency. When you show up in that consistent manner, that's when everything, changes. And so here is something that it reminded, maybe because we're Virgos, so we probably have a lot of that similar mindset, because we have the same sun sign. What's your rising sign? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So,
that doesn't make any sense to me. I'll have to go to someone to get that done.
yeah. You know what? You'll have to tune in. Dana Blick. It's This Astro Life, and so we do these. I do about once a quarter with her. I'll have her do a little astrology update, and man, she's really fantastic on breaking all that down. So you'll have to tune in
It's
and
so
listen to it.
amazing.
Yeah, it's very cool. I love that, she's so connected with astrology and she explains it and breaks it down in such a digestible way, which
So
is
you
really
can
cool.
understand it. You don't feel lost.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally. So you were married at a young age, and I think that just from reading what you wrote, you probably just kind of fell into what a lot of us fall into, which is that we put these expectations on ourselves of what it is to be a good wife, a good mom.
Mhm.
And what happened to you during that time frame? And you also you entered motherhood with already having is it type 1 diabetes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just
So
talk just a little bit about that.
I've struggled with diabetes since I was 10. So that's been a very long struggle. But yeah, motherhood, wow. Motherhood. Nobody ever tells us how motherhood's going to be, how it should be, which there's really shouldn't be, right? We have books and mothers and mother-in-laws and friends and sisters telling us how we should be as a parent. And if you don't do it that way, you're kind of mom shamed.
Right.
And with my kids, I took a totally different approach with my kids. Like, um, my kids were allowed to be kids. I told them for so many years growing up, do not grow up. Like, be a kid as long as you can, because when
Yeah.
you grow up, you're going to be wishing you were a kid again. So I took that mother role in, feeding and discipline and all that, but also took that friendship role where I wanted them to be able to ask me questions. I
Yeah.
wanted them to be able to come to me and talk to me about sex or relationships and all that stuff that kids shy away from their parents. So I tried to do the mother part as best as I possibly could, but I also lost myself. Like, I lost my um, desires. Like, what did I want to do in life? What did I want to become in life? And then, so when the kids started getting older, that's when I really felt lost, is because they were they were going to school, and I had nothing to do all day. And I was just like, oh, I can't even stand being with myself. Like, I didn't know who I was, depression, anxiety, weight gain. I mean, you name it, everything. I mean, just my health was falling apart. And that was also because I took, that back burner of taking care of myself with my kids. So I learned a very valuable lesson of motherhood, of how not only me, but I feel like every mother goes through that, of just losing herself and just feeling lost. And um, you just want to give up, right? I went through days where I would drop my kids off. I'd come home and sleep all day long, when I'd shower. So then when I started feeling the side effects of the emotions of my body, my mind just not connecting, that's when my health started. And that's when I had a heart attack and almost lost my eyesight. And so it was just kind of like this rolling effect. So yeah, motherhood's hard, very, very
It
hard.
is.
And it never ends. Like, my kids are almost grown now, and I'm still trying to guide them the way that they want to be guided, but still give them freedom to be who they are. And so that's really hard to,
Oh,
control,
girl.
making sure.
Oh, it totally is. I just had one, right? And well, I lost a child at a young age, but I've had one son, that I've raised. And I the same. I wanted to have a very open dialogue, very open conversations. It was a different generation that raised you and I, and they it's the uncomfortable questions was not something that I could ask just because it was like, don't do it, versus, hey, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation. Just don't do it, And so then we fall into this. I love that you used the word shoulds, because it's the shoulds. And we put so much pressure on those shoulds in our life. You should be doing this and you should be doing that. Well, really? I mean, let's get still and let's see if that resonates with me, resonates with who I am and my purpose, here on this earth. So I love that you used that. And I remember I went to an event. This is almost 3 years ago now, and I was talking to a mentor that I had, and I was sharing with her about my son. And I said, oh, he's got all these gifts. He's got this great personality, and he's so good at talking to people. And, I just wish that he would like start doing like YouTube channels or talking to people and travel the world. And he would be so great in that role, but he wants to sell cars. And she goes, well, that's what you want to do. That's not what he wants to do. Why are you pushing what you want to do off on him? And I'm like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my gosh. So I came home and I go, Lane, I'm so sorry. I've been pushing my agenda off on you. And he's like, Mom, it's okay. I go, you can sell cars if you want to.
Yep. Yeah.
And he sold cars for a few months and then quit. He moved on. But I didn't, even though I was like this cool mom, I didn't realize it's this constant awareness practice, and this constant, it's communication. It's a lot to be a parent, and we have all this guilt,
Exactly. And I find communicating, because like you said, we grew up in a different time. communicating is so hard. Like, I feel like I'm just learning how to communicate, because there's just so many emotions you can't put into words. And
Yes.
so just trying to find words, and my son struggles with finding how to express himself. And I feel like that's how I was when I was growing up. The way I expressed myself is getting mad and angry because I couldn't express how I felt. And
Yes.
so then I was just this angry, miserable person. And then kids changed my life, and now, I'm trying to get back to being that person that you're truly meant to be, happy and go lucky and easygoing. And it's still hard with that parenting, that mother role, and that control issue. But again, communicating, so hard, so hard. I think yoga, being a yoga instructor, has helped me a lot with learning how to try to put words into motion. And yeah, I mean, that's just a whole other issue, is communicating. And I feel like children, we don't teach children about their emotions. We tell them how they should feel. Oh, this should make you happy, or oh, this should be better, or and children are kind of like, well, how do I express my emotion into words? And we don't teach that. Like, we just teach them how they should feel and what emotion they should feel at what time. And so it's hard, again, just to tap into those words. Anyway.
It is. I mean, it's like we're creating the box, and versus allowing that communication and that conscious creation to occur. And I started hearing the words conscious parenting after my son was already grown, and I have a grandbaby coming, so I'm super excited.
You can put it into play with that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because I just, it's, of course, there's still, kind of steering, right and
Yes.
wrong, right? But it's just in a different way versus you shouldn't do that and you should do that. It's the reasoning and the explanation, and these are the consequences that could happen, or these are the gifts, the rewards that could happen. And I think that, we get in a hurry and life gets busy, and the communication slows down a little bit because we're all going and we're all moving so quickly. So I know for me, this COVID time has really allowed me to have time and step back, which at first rattled my cage a little bit, but now I've kind of eased and glided into that. And
We're so
okay.
addicted to being busy, just like
Yeah.
addicted to being busy. And I think COVID definitely slowed us down a bit, and kind of was like, maybe life isn't all about this stressful ball of burdens that we carry around. Like, when we go to bed at night, we can't even go to sleep because our minds are just so busy. So COVID has, I think, definitely, you described it. There for a while, it was kind of like, oh my God, what am I going to do with myself? What am I going to do? Life's going to end. The world's going to blow up. Hopefully not. But yeah, I completely understand with that slowing down, going through that panic stage almost.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, it's kind of like, oh, now I don't really want to go back to the way things were, because I've learned my lesson about that. So
I have too. Yeah. And I think that, maybe for those who have had a harder time at taking that look inside and being okay with being in that uncomfortableness, you and I have been practicing it for a period of time. And I have to say, well, you're a yogi, and so am I. And I actually don't practice the postures as much as I used to.
yeah, but there's so many. Yeah,
I'm more into
just
the aerial. Yeah,
yeah,
it's just a little piece of it,
a
right?
tiny fraction of the practice.
Yeah, and that's what I always try to explain to everyone, because I'll teach yoga classes on my back porch every now and again. I just taught
I
one
want to
yesterday.
come. That looks
Yes, I
great
would
out
love it.
there.
Oh, please come visit
I would
Kelly.
love to. I know. I would love to.
Yeah,
Love to have a
good.
girls' time.
But I always try to share with everyone, because yoga's not easy for everyone. It depends on,
Mhm.
how, because sometimes the flexibility can almost be a little sore for people.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like, this is just the postures are just like a micro piece of it.
they definitely
It's
are.
just a little bitty piece of it. And so it's for me, it was learning how to be with myself and be on the
Yep.
mat
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm. And with
stop
your
that
breath.
chatter.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
the breath.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, I mean, if I don't know if your husband practiced yoga, but mine doesn't. And so I never really knew that breath. It kicked in probably about, a year and a half into my practice. I always
Yeah.
hear breath, breath, breath. But now, like when I'm sitting beside my husband in bed at night, when I'm breathing, like he'll take 3, 4 breaths to my one. And I'm like, whoa, like I guess that breath work really does, because about 80% of the population
Shallow
uses
breathe.
shallow breathing or belly breathing, and they don't even use that full capacity of their lungs. And
Right.
so that breath really makes you be with yourself, because when you're breathing and you're focusing on it, that's the only thing you can focus on is what's going on up here. And that mind chatter will just every 2 seconds, boing, it's like all over the place. It's ping pong. Ah! So yeah, I love that what you said, being uncomfortable. And that's what I tell my students all the time is yoga is about being uncomfortable, getting into awkward positions, but staying with the breath and staying calm and cool and collective in awkward situations. And that doesn't just happen on your yoga mat. That happens in everyday life.
Right.
So you just kind of start flowing that into your everyday life. And that is the beauty of, like you said, just being with yourself, knowing that you can take control of your mental and don't let your mental fly off and go off into other directions.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about you breezed by the fact that you had how many heart attacks did you have in blindness, which was already you were type 1 diabetic, is that right?
So diabetes started long ago, and they always told me growing up is you got to take care of it or it's going to catch up to you. And I was like, nah, never will happen to me. I'm invincible. Um, but after children is when it really, I mean, I started taking care of myself while I was pregnant because I felt this life growing in me.
Yeah.
But then after children, again, my health was on the back burner. And that's when my eyesight, my eye doctor said, you're going to lose your eyesight if you don't start taking care of yourself. I was a smoker. So, I was still smoking cigarettes and still trying to party. And he's like, yeah, you're going to lose your eyesight. And so I just remember looking at my kids, and my daughter was, I think, 3 months old at the time. And
Mhm.
I thought, like I'm going to miss everything if I don't care of myself. So
Right.
it started there. And then when I kind of started taking care of myself again, that's when my heart started acting up. So
Mhm.
just all of a sudden, out of the blue, I was struggling a lot with anxiety. My heart rate really fluttering and
Mhm.
almost going into hyperventilating. I mean, just to go pick the kids up. Like I was just so stressed out about being around people and what they thought of me, and if being a good mom, just all that,
Right.
all
Pressure.
that nonsense.
Pressure you're putting on yourself. Right. It's just that
Mhm.
the chatter that runs.
Just
Yeah.
constantly going. And so I just went to pick up my son one day from pre-K, and my heart started feeling really heavy, and I was kind of like, "Ooh, what is that?" And then it kind of felt like my lungs started getting hot, kind of like if you have bronchitis and you breathe in cool air and it just makes your lungs just freak out. And so I was like, oh. And then my daughter was in the car and she was still a baby. Um, my inside of my arms kind of started going numb. And I was just kind of like, what is going on? So I kind of cracked the windows, try to get some air in there.
Right.
And I was like, something's not right. And of course, I was like, well, maybe I should go into the nurse and just kind of see and just tell them I'm not feeling right. And I was like, nope,
Right.
nope, nope. If I do that, the whole people in the whole school are going to be like, oh my God, she's so weird. She came in. And so when my son came out, we loaded him up in the car and I drove to the end of the street, and I was still feeling it and it was just getting worse. Well, there's a fire department right down the street. And I thought,
Mm.
well, maybe I should stop there. Like, no, I'll just go home. We usually go on to the store and get like little drinks and stuff. But I was like, well, I'll just go home. Called my husband right away. He's like, you're probably just having a panic attack. Just sit down and relax,
Mhm.
take deep breaths. So I started doing that. Well, when I was breathing out, it was just like, it was hurting just to breathe out, just massive, massive pressure. So I took an aspirin because I'd always seen it on TV, took an aspirin. My husband came home and he took me to the hospital. Well, we sat there for hours upon hours, like till 7 o'clock at night. And they finally called me back. And well, I kept telling him, let's just leave. I feel better. Let's just leave. It's okay. It's a good thing we didn't. So
Yeah.
when I got into the waiting room, there was a nice clinical doctor. She figured everything out, took blood enzymes, and said, "Yeah, you had a heart attack. We're going to admit you." It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. Got in my bed, laid down, and I had another heart attack. And I was telling my husband, I was like, I think I'm having another one. And he's like, well, push the damn button. You're in the hospital.
Right.
I was just like, because you're just so afraid of what if it's not right? What if it's not right? And we
Yeah.
just never listen to ourselves.
Mhm.
So anyway, yeah, that turned into 3 extra years of I had to get a stent put in that next day. And then the next year, same problem. I felt the same thing. So I went back to my doctor and said, look, I'm feeling some pressure. Went in, had to put another stent in, clogged up again. And then the next year, almost a year to the date every time, I went back and I was like, I'm feeling it again. And the doctor's like, well, you know what you're talking about every time you come in. So we went in, stent in. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, then I was just afraid to do anything. Like I just walked around protecting my heart. Like I was afraid to even make my heart rate go up because I thought I was.
Sure.
So then that was like when the real depression really sunk in. It was like probably another year before I even thought about yoga or anything. Like I kept seeing yoga and I was like, I need to do something with my life. I need to do something. And yoga kept popping out to me. So I was like, okay, let's try yoga. And that's how that all began. But in the process of all the heart and everything, then my kidneys started shutting down because they had me on so much medication for my high blood pressure and my heart murmur and everything. So then my kidneys started shutting down and they went down to about 48%. So then we had to work on that. So my doctor and kidney doctor kind of argued for a long time about what dosage, you
Yeah.
know, to go because one was saying, well, she needs the heart and they need the kidneys. We need them both. So that's when the doctor started struggling about the medicines. And then I also felt how the medicines I was like on 16, 20 different medicines.
How old were you, Haley?
I was 29 when all that started happening. Yeah. Um, so I could just start feeling the side effects of the medicine. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you've gone through the same thing. So I just kind of decided like, it's time for me. Like I said, that little voice in my head was just whispering, you've got to save yourself because the doctors they want to treat it scientifically. They don't want to treat it mentally or physically or what's the root of the problem. They just want to throw those medications on you. And so that's when I was like, okay, I've got to do it. I got to save myself. I've got to take my life back. And that's when eating healthy and weaning off of the medications and yoga and just taking time for myself, just a little piece of my time through the day. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy. So,
That was I mean, that is a really, really big wake up call. And I'm so glad
yes,
that you had the ability to listen to yourself because I think that a lot of people don't. They just can't hear it and are so wrapped up in believing that somebody knows better what to
yes.
do for them
Mhm.
versus them knowing what to do for themselves. They'd rather someone else make the decision.
Well, and I think I was tired of playing the victim. Like
Right.
I was just tired of everyone feeling sorry for me.
Right.
And I was just like, I'm tired of feeling so like lost and
Mhm.
so weak. like just wheat.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, you know, my heart doctor was saying is like, well, you know better than I do, because every time you come in here, you tell me exactly what's going on. And so I've
So
always
you
been,
had body awareness. You had some
oh yeah,
body awareness for
oh yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And you know, through my whole life, I've been sick from the time I was born. Allergies, like my mom couldn't even give me formula. She had to give me like watered down goat's milk because I was allergic to everything. And so
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with allergies. I I struggle with nutrition. I guess my body just wasn't getting, so I would eat like poison, like poisonous stuff. I would eat it, and they would have to take me and go get my stomach pumped. And it was just kind of weird. Like I guess nutrition. I mean, nutrition. I can't. I mean, like right now, I am not on my nutrition game, and I can feel it. But I feel
Yeah.
like nutrition, you are what you eat. And
Yes.
man, I feel like once you start giving your body what it needs, and your body is going to call for something that my body doesn't, you know,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
just listen, like listen to your body. Like if you eat something and it makes you feel like crap, don't eat it anymore, because that's your body telling you stop putting that in me. You know, like if you eat something and you feel good and light, then keep continuing to eat that. Um,
Yeah.
I just feel like, and I don't know if you go through spells, but like you'll start craving something. Like I started craving something really weird after my heart attacks, and they had me on so many blood thinners because every time of the month I would just lose so much blood. And so they were fixing to give me blood transfusions. But before they even said that, like my body was craving beets, and I would just go to the store and eat like canned beets. I would go home and open them and just eat the beets right out of the can.
Yeah.
Ew, I've never liked beets. Why am I craving? But
Yeah.
find out I needed iron. And so my body was
Yeah.
telling me. And so I feel like nutrition is a great way to like really, like you don't even have to work out. If you're giving your body good food, your body is going to be so happy to you. So nutrition, I think, really started me on that role of health. And then exercise. And, you know, at first I was going like all hard cardio and like,
Yeah.
I gotta walk 100 miles a month. And
Right.
I was doing like all that. And then yoga came in and I kind of just was like, oh, I don't need to like push my body that hard. Nutrition, breath, like health is not just about what you look like. So, I mean, it is so much about what your mental is and what your mental can do. So, if you can stay strong up here in your mind, man, all that rest of that stuff is easy peasy. Not really, it's not easy, but
It's not, yeah, it's not easy,
it's
but
not
but you
so
feel
hard.
so much better
You do.
when
It's worth it.
when you get into that good mental space, when you are just a little bit of exercise, you know, even if
Yes.
it's for me just walking,
Walking, yes,
right?
outside. That's
Um,
the best.
slow yoga postures, just a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
stretching, and then you're right. When I mean, I can tell such a difference when I eat good and when I
Oh
don't. And
yes.
there are
Oh yeah.
still like I so my husband is not the best eater, and he asked me to pick him up some Popeyes fried chicken. This is probably 3 weeks ago. So I'm like, okay, I'll get myself a chicken
Might as
sandwich.
well treat
I'll be
yourself.
honest, it was damn delicious.
It
And
was. Yeah.
so I passed a Popeyes the other day, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get
Yeah.
one. So I got one. Well, then
Yeah.
he'd gotten pizza that night. I ate some pizza, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm so lethargic. I gave myself grace, and I just rested, and I tried to step out of judgment with the shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, and I think that you have to treat yourself, right? If you want
Yeah,
it, give
yeah,
yourself a treat. You don't have to
sure,
be for all the time.
right.
And you have it's all about balance. You know, you
Yes.
have to give yourself treats. I'm telling you, Chick-fil-A is my weak point. If I am
Yeah.
like out and I'm like, Chick-fil-A, here I
Yeah. Yeah.
go. We all have our weaknesses. So
We do. Yeah. And so, but you're right though. Like I drank a green juice this morning and I had a lifestyle mix and I'm like, all right, I'm feeling pretty
mhm.
good. And
Yeah.
so it is, it's just, when to me, what I have figured out over the last 10-ish years is feeling good is honestly the most important thing to me is feeling good mentally, physically, I like to feel good. And I think when you're filling your own cup, it just is a ripple effect to so many
It
people around
does.
you.
It does.
Hmm.
And so many people don't realize that. Like when you're
Hmm.
feeling good, people, it's like a light, like they're
Yeah.
attracted to you. The bad thing about that though too is you got people that want to suck your energy from you. So
Yes.
being protective with your energy too. Like even though you're this light and you're this positive inspiration to so many people, you still have to block your energy from some people because there's some people that just want to come and suck it right out of you. And that
Yeah.
will mentally and physically exhaust you. That's one lesson that I've
I,
learned the past couple of
oh
years.
yeah, me too.
And it's hard. Like you
Yeah,
don't
mine's just been over the last few years as well. Yeah, I practice at setting healthy boundaries and protecting my energy because
yes.
you're right. People see it and they want to pull from it. And I don't think it's even
They
it's
don't even
probably not
know.
even a conscious thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even a conscious thing. Yeah, it's just implementing these healthy boundaries. And I do a little meditation where I used to do it a lot more. I've kind of, it just kind of naturally comes on now
Yep.
just because I practiced it so much, but I create a little healthy energy bubble around
Yep.
myself to
Yep.
protect. Yeah. So I can give, but not take. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I'm the same way. I like, well, these two fingers, I'll just kind of push them together. And that's just kind of
Mm.
like, boom, I put my force field around me. And if you see those people, you just kind of wave from afar and you're like, hi, much love. Keep going. I love you, but I just can't deal with you today. Yeah.
Yes.
Boundaries. Excuse me,
Boundaries are
sorry.
good.
Yeah, boundaries are something that a lot of us need to set
A
more.
lot. Hmm. Hmm. So you have been in the practice of yoga for about 10 years.
Oh, about 5.
Oh, 5.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, girl. Okay. So it's
I
been
wish 10,
5 years.
I'd be way farther along.
So you should, okay, you're 42, you said, and you started in your late 20s is when the heart attacks
Well,
happened.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yep. And I had for about 3 years almost heart attacks, and then that's when I started going into my daily practice of yoga. So probably a daily practice of yoga for about 5 years now. Um, and that doesn't have to be asana practice. It doesn't have to be power yoga. That can be meditation. That can just be breathing techniques. That can just be in making intentions for yourself. Again, yoga is such a vast practice, and a lot of people think it's just asana practice.
Mhm.
So about 5 years of a daily practice now. Um, teaching, I haven't been teaching that long. So
Yeah. When did you become an instructor? So do you remember making the decision that you were going to become a yoga instructor? Do you remember that moment?
I actually didn't even make the decision to be a yoga instructor. I started going to the studio about 2 years into my home practice because
Mhm.
I was like, I need to kind of just make sure that I'm doing this yoga thing right. I'm
Okay.
watching a bunch of YouTube videos and I've
Sure.
self-taught myself. So I went down to Yoga Mat, pretty much the only yoga studio that was in Amarillo,
Hmm.
and started going there. And I guess it was probably 6 months into my practice there, the studio owner had said, "Hey, you want to go get a coffee?" I was like, "Sure, we'll go get a coffee." And when we got there, she kind of was like, "Well, I've just kind of decided that if you want to come practice at my studio, you're going to have to become one of my teachers because I don't want
Oh,
you coming back to the studio unless you're one of my teachers." And I was like, And she was needing teachers at that time because there wasn't that many teachers in town.
uh-huh.
And I was kind of like, well, I was like, yoga's like my thing. Like, I don't want to teach it to no one. I just want to do it. And I was
Sure.
like, I'm going to have to kind of think about that. And she was like, I will put you through school. Cause I was like, I don't have the money to do it. I don't have a certificate. And she was like, well, she actually forced me to start teaching before I even was certified. So she gave me 2 weeks after that meeting to come up with a flow. And I was terrified. I was like, are you serious? Like, you're serious about this? She's like, I'm serious. You got 2 weeks. And I was like, okay. So it wasn't even anything really I decided, because I was just in my practice. I was enjoying my practice. That was my me time. And then teaching actually terrified me, because I was having to teach to the students that I was practicing with in the studio. And so it was terrifying to switch that role. It was also terrifying because I didn't have a certificate. And so I was like, I'm not certified. What am I going to do? And the teacher, my teacher kept saying, you know more than I know. And I've been teaching for 16 years. So you just go ahead and do your thing, and everything's just going to line out. And I was like, okay. So I taught, and I did my schooling and did my practice. And that's how I became a teacher. And I actually love it. You know, it's rewarding. I love to see people flourish and grow, and not just physically, but like mentally. It's like such a beautiful thing when people believe in themselves and they start
Yes.
realizing that they create their own reality, and they
Right.
just grab a hold of their life and they're like, I am going to create what I want. And that is so beautiful to me. I love
I do too. I love it too.
that.
And isn't it, you've mentioned, the certificate, and I even said a yoga instructor, but it's interesting because, for a while, it's like, do we even have to have all these certificates for things? I
You
don't
really
think so.
don't.
I
Well, and
don't think so.
it's funny
But we
that you
get in
say
such judgment of ourselves, like, okay,
that.
well, I'm official then. If I get that certificate, I'm official. And I am an
Yes.
official yoga instructor, and it
Yeah,
looks like
me too.
you are too. But, it's like
I
we
know. And
we
it's
mhm.
funny you say that, because I trained under Brian Kess, and he's been around for like 40 years teaching. And
Yeah.
the first thing that he said was, keep, your first rule in teacher training is keep your practice, because you have to practice in order to teach. And
Mm,
so if you don't practice, then you can't teach, because your students are going to outgrow you. And so that was one thing. But he also said, I'm not going to just give anybody a certificate of yoga, because you could teach for 20 years and not be a good teacher.
mm,
And you could be teaching for 20 years without a certificate and be an amazing instructor and touch so many. And so that really sank into me, because when I was teaching at the studio, I didn't have my certificate. And for like the first 6 months, I was teaching. And so it was so weird, because I was just felt like I was so small. Like, I was like, I'm not worth being someone's teacher because I'm not certified. And as soon as he said that, I was kind of like, oh, okay, like, I get it now. I totally get it. Like you said, education is great, but some people know so much more than education will ever teach. And those are the people that you should really like tune into, I think.
yes. I 100% agree. We put so much value in that certificate, and it's truly it's about the practice of it. And when you're really in the practice of the breath, and you're in the practice of the meditation, and even in the practice of the postures, and in the practice of just the yoga way of life, the awareness, the intention, that's what makes you um, that's what inspires others. And yeah, I totally agree. I've been to I have a hard time in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and I've not explored any studios in quite a while, because I really loved there used to be a studio over here. Her name was Lisa Hart, and she did this like some kind of like infomercial back in the day. It was like called Buns of Steel or something like that. And she
I
was
think
this,
I had that video.
yeah. So
That's
her name's Lisa Hart. And so she opened Heart Yoga. Well, she had a back injury, and yoga had changed her life. Well, I loved the instructors she had at her studio. They were truly in the awareness practice of yoga. And it was, there was some power classes, but there was also just some flow classes, and I really enjoyed it. And then her studio closed, and I don't know the reason why her studio closed. And it seemed to me that so many of the studios, it was more about the fitness piece of it. And it's like the fitness kind of just comes along with it.
Mhm.
But when it's like just about the workout, that's what you can just, I'm like, oh, that's such fake
Mhm.
yoga.
Yep.
I
Yep.
just didn't, yeah, I
Yep.
didn't vibe with it.
It's
Mhm.
yoga is a work in and not a workout. I say that
Oh, I
all the
like
time.
that. I like that. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's all about that inner work. And that inner work is the hardest because man, our mind, our mind creates so much tension into our body. And then our body is just like stuck there holding on to it. And we are so like we're so addicted to being busy mentally. Like, oh, I gotta go do this. Oh, I gotta go do that. Oh, I gotta do that. And your mind is just creating all this stress in your body, right? And your body's just like, it's getting tighter and it's holding more in and more tension. And we all know that that's going to create inflammation, and inflammation is the root of all disease. And
Right.
so, what I love about yoga is it mentally calms that nervous system down. So your mind is focusing on the breath, and then your body's getting to move. So it's releasing all of the pollution and all of the toxins out of every cell of your being. I mean, your internal organs, you're twisting, you're sweating, I mean, it's such a beautiful practice.
It is.
Um, and, and that's just, it's, I don't even know where I was going with it because I get so lost in yoga. It's just such a beautiful thing. And once we can calm that mind down, get the stress out of the body, we have this platform where the mental and the body is on the same plane. And our spirit is just like so enlightened and so happy. And our breath is great, you know. So it's a complete workout mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. It's not just that physical that we get when we weight lift, because I'm not saying any of that's bad. Like
Right.
that's awesome and great.
Uh-huh.
That is so, I mean, if you're doing any type of exercise, good for you. You're awesome. Um,
Yes.
but when you get into this yoga, it's the complete fitness. It's, you know, you get your cardio, you get your vascular, you get your organs detoxed, you get your mind detoxed. And so it just makes you happy.
It
There's
does.
just no other practice, I believe, that can touch all of those areas.
Yeah. Yeah. I I totally agree. You're making me want to
You some
practice
yoga?
yoga a little bit more. I mean, I do the breath work and I do the, I do the other stuff, but really the flow of it. It's I really tried to, when I was walking everyone through the practice yesterday, I had a little workshop on my back porch, and when we were walking through the postures, I love, it's mainly women that come to these
Mhm.
little workshops, that I have. And I love that, when you're standing in that warrior position or you're standing in that goddess position, like truly like stepping into that power and
Yes, and
pulling it all in with that breath and just being so aware at, I mean, what a gift it is to be
yes,
alive. And we just have, um, I, I can tell you that 10 years ago, I was so caught in that victim mentality, and I was so caught in that, why is this happening to me? And and once I let go and let go and got still and listened to myself, it just shifted everything. And it's not an easy thing to do.
it's not. It's not.
It's not. And there are some times where you're like, fuck it, I am so
Yeah,
done with this
yeah,
healing
yes,
shit.
yes. I hear you. And
Right.
I had those days. I had one of those days yesterday where I just wanted to shut the world out and lock myself away because I was so miserable with myself that I didn't want to even be around anybody else, because it's kind of like when you start taking that responsibility of your own actions, you're kind of like, God, I don't even want to put this shit on anybody else because I can't stand myself. So
Right.
you just kind of lock yourself away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completely understand.
But that's great that you had the awareness to say, okay, I'm going to just, I'm gonna sit here with all this shit that I've got. I'm just gonna sit here and just let it, and I see it and just be with it. And then today, look at you. You're just shining bright and sharing with everybody else, right?
Get up and put the smiley face on for class this morning. So,
Yeah.
but it's Monday, and I try to make Mondays because the weekend goes by really fast. Everyone was like, "How's your weekend?" I'm like, "It was more frantic than the week," but thanks for asking. So, Monday is a great opportunity just to take time when you get up in the morning. Like, even if you're putting on your makeup and just look in the mirror and be like, "Hey, it's you. Hey, you, like
Yeah.
you're alive and you woke up this morning and you're breathing, and there's millions that didn't get to do that. So be thankful that you're here and you got your eyesight and you got your breath and you got your hands and your feet. A lot of people don't have that. And you just go about your day. Like, you suck it up. And if you're having a bad day, you just say, hey, it's going to get better. It's Mondays are usually frantic, right? We got to get up, we got to get everybody ready, we got to get to school, we got to get to work. So if you can just take that time just when you're getting ready, looking at yourself in the mirror, and just tell yourself, hey, you're awesome. Things are going to line up. Everything is going to work out for you. Open your heart to new possibilities, new goals. Everything that you need is going to happen, right? And it might not be in your time manner, but it will eventually all line up. And you just have to keep telling yourself that over and over and over again. It's all going to work out. It's all going to work out. And it always does, right?
It
Like,
always does.
when you go through the shittiest times in your life, you're like about to fall apart, and then 2 months later you're like, damn, that was hard, but it still doesn't seem as difficult as it was when you were going through it. And it just kind of prepares you for that next time that things get turbulent, and
Yeah,
sets you in the right path.
it does. And that's why I set these Stay Wild Child conversations. Ooh, can you hear me?
Yep,
I
I hear you.
don't know what it was. I don't know what happened.
Notification.
So, oh yeah, Amazon did just send me a notification. That's what it was. It was Amazon. Um,
Oh,
yeah. So, what was I saying? Oh, I set these Stay Wild Child conversations for Monday because, a lot of times I think that if you happen to be at a corporate job or something, you probably, like, on a Monday, a lot of times, oh, I'll just stay in for lunch. And so I thought, okay, what a great time to have these conversations so that, it's just a good way to start your week. And so
yes.
that's why I set these for Mondays. So I hope I
Yeah,
know that this message will speak to somebody today.
I hope so.
And I knew that we would get along very well.
Yes,
I've read your post for almost a year now, and I'm
I
like,
know. I
oh,
love
we on the
connecting.
same wavelength.
Yes. And isn't that great? Because, like, it seems like when we're all going through this, we're all connected somehow, right? And
Right.
that's one reason I do these Instagram and Facebook posts. And you're asking about writing earlier, and writing's not something that's easy for me. Like, again, that communication, finding those words to how I feel, because there's just really no way you can put words on life. Like, it's just so much more than what words could predict or
Yeah.
forecast. And so when I write these posts, a lot of times a quote has spoke to me, but it takes me a minute, to go through it and reread it. And, oh, I should put this word here, or this word would make more sense. But I post those, and it seems like when I do take the time and I get it all right in my head and I get it lined out, that those speak to the people the most, like more comments, and like, I needed to hear this today. And so I think that, when we start to awaken, like, how you call this your wild tribe, we start to form this tribe, we start to form this connection that we don't even really see or hear, we just feel. And
Yeah.
so that's one thing I'm trying to be more aware of, is like, everything's not in sight or in hearing, or there's feelings that you have to kind of tug through and dig through sometimes. And it's a vibe, and so you doing this speaks to me volumes. It inspires me. And so, like you said, I hope that someone needs to hear maybe just even a sentence of what we said today. and it just resonates with them.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all, yeah, it's about the story. And just, I've been in the direct sales business now for almost 7 years. And the, it's the stories behind how the product changed someone's life. And somebody hears something in that story that resonates with them, they decide to take action and give it a try. And then it turns on their life switch. And so that's even my goal with Stay Wild Child. It's the story, because it's going to resonate with someone,
Mhm.
and that's going to inspire them to just slowly, it doesn't even have to, it's not an overnight thing,
No.
and we can get in judgment of the speed of the thing. But I mean, look, you're 42 and you're talking about, your late 20s having a heart attack. I mean,
Yes,
it's a process.
it is.
It's, and
Yeah.
everything can't happen all at once. And when your mind starts to wake up, it it starts to allow you to comprehend information, a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And that funnel just starts growing. And, something that maybe somebody said, to me, a year ago, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And then now I'm like,
Exactly.
oh, I get it. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when you see like all these like Lao Tzu quotes and stuff, and you're like, this makes no sense. And then
Right.
you reread it one day and you're like, ah, that makes perfect sense.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It
Exactly.
is. And, life is a practice. Your
Yeah.
breath is a practice. Your mental health is a practice. Your spiritual practice. I mean, your emotional, I mean, everything is a practice. And I think that's one thing that we get down on ourselves is because we're like, like I'm going to go on a diet and you give it one day and you're like, I didn't lose any weight. And you're like, okay, but give yourself some time because it does. It's an every second practice. Life
Mhm.
is. No.
Yeah.
And then when you start to practice that every second and kind of breaking it down, of course, it's really hard to do. But if at least if you can do it every 10 minutes, right? Just
Mhm.
check in and be like, okay, I have let my mind just scurry off for 10 minutes. Let me bring it back for 1 minute.
Right.
If you can just start to do that, then it becomes more aware. You become more aware, more aware. And then before you even know it, you're doing it without even bringing your mind aware to it. You're
Yes.
like, oh, okay, but yeah, I mean, people are like, I can't practice meditation or I can't do yoga. And I'm like, what's that saying? If you say you can't or you say you can, you're right.
You're
And
right.
so
Mhm.
you're right. Yeah. I mean, um, and meditation, I'm sure you probably get so many
Oh
questions
yeah.
about meditation.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
And I'm like, it is, the more you do it, it's not about, having that enlightened state where you're floating up off of the ground in lotus position with this beautiful light surrounding you.
Yeah.
And I tell people that all the time. It's so far from that. It is just like, as soon as you close your eyes and you start breathing within like 2 breaths, your mind's already like, oh, I got to go do this. Or, oh, I can't believe so and so said that. Or, oh
Mhm.
my God, everything going on with the world right now.
Right.
And that's what I tell people. I'm like, but that is the practice. Like every two
Yes.
seconds of you grabbing that attention and bringing it
Bringing
back,
it back.
that is the practice. And
Mhm.
whether you do that every 2 seconds for 1 minute, you're still practicing. And then the next day, maybe you have to bring it back every 3 seconds for a minute, and it just gets longer and longer. And then your body and your mind start craving it. And, I don't know about you, but my family is like, have you done your yoga? And I'm like, no. And they're like, you can tell, go do your yoga.
Yeah.
And so you just, you just practice and you just keep practicing. And when you find yourself telling yourself that you're a piece of crap and you can't do that, just remember that's just your ego. That's just your ego mind talking.
Absolutely.
And you just got to bring it back and say, no, no, no. This is teaching me something. What is this teaching me? And you
Yeah.
go right back through it. And sometimes you have to go through it 100 times before you get it right. And then
Yeah.
sometimes you do it once and you're like, nope, not going to do that again. So just keep
I
practicing.
just, I realized judgment of myself is one of my beautiful Virgo qualities.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that very sarcastically. But it's one of my beautiful Virgo qualities. And I think it's probably a lot of women, we fall into judgment of ourselves. And I've just recently, and I just posted something about this today in Say Wild Child, but I really just within the last handful of weeks have I practiced just observing the thing versus being in judgment of the thing. And so, like, I did call myself out just a minute ago for eating that Popeye's fried chicken sandwich. Yet I didn't at the time. I said, oh, so I'm just observing that I've decided that I'm going to eat a fried chicken sandwich versus, sushi or salad or whatever. And so it was just an observation of it. I was just kind of making fun of myself on this. But it's just instead of, this is just something I mean, literally, and I talk about, not judging yourself and being kind to yourself and speaking words of encouragement and loving yourself, so you can love others. And I speak about that all the time, but I'm still in practice of it because, I can fall into judgment, but I've found this observation. Oh, okay. So I've just observed that. I've just kind of switched it's the feeling, I think, behind it. It's the, I think it is. I think it's the feeling behind it. Oh, I'm observing this instead of, oh, I'm, judging it. And it's just something just within the last few weeks. And I've just noticed such a difference in my flow. And I thought, ooh, I think I'm onto something. So
Yes.
I'll keep practicing and I'll let you know how it goes. But I think it's been a pretty cool little thing.
Is and just being that witness, being the
Yeah.
silent witness. And I get a lot in meditation. Like I'll have certain memories or words or conversations come up,
Yeah.
and I have to sit back and I have to be the witness. And I'm like, okay, I'm not judging what happened. I'm not blaming one person or the other. I'm just witnessing and I'm observing why that made me feel that way.
Mm.
And that's so hard because, again, sometimes you can be the witness and you can be the observer, but sometimes the mind takes it and it goes way off again. But flipping that switch again, and like when you mess up, I messed up. Who cares? I messed
Who
up.
cares?
I'm going
Yeah.
to learn from it or I'm going to repeat it.
Yeah.
So the decision is yours. Instead of dragging yourself through that mud pit and
Right.
kicking yourself while you're down, you might as well just be like, okay, I'm not the victim here. I take full responsibility of what happened. I'm not blaming one person or the other. And I feel like we do that a lot. Like we either blame ourselves or we blame the other person instead of saying, okay, it happened. I'm going to learn from it and then I'm going to move on. And we carry around so much, right? Like we carry around so much, like I said, through meditation, there's stuff that I carry around from when, like, I can picture myself when I'm 3 years old in a store.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did that come up? But we hold it. We hold memory in our body just like we hold it in our mind. And
Beautiful.
so releasing it through asana practice and then releasing the mind and meditation practice, again, you just get this union, this perfect union of body and mind, and that soul just starts to open up. And that's what we're striving for, I feel like, in this lifetime, is to really connect back to our spirit, like our gods, our, our highest form. And every time that we can bring it back to what would our soul do, like what would my spirit do, not what my body would do or what my
Yeah.
mind would do, but union, incorporate those together, because it's hard to fit in this one vessel, right? When we
Oh,
have
sure.
mind, body, spirit. But once we can start to balance the mind and balance the body, the spirit just is like, oh, thank you so much. So,
And what you mentioned that, like a memory coming up from long ago, and we can say to ourselves, I know that I have at times, God, I thought I already released that, man. I thought I already let that go.
yeah,
But it's a constant practice of
it
letting it
is
go.
constantly.
Yeah, I don't think it ever ends.
It does.
It
Never.
does. I think it gets easier because we witness it faster is probably what it is. And you're like, oh wait, okay. I've seen you before.
Mhm.
I'm letting you go. Yeah. I think we can maybe catch it just a little bit faster, but it doesn't get easier. But once we realize that that's just, it's acceptance of that, hey, this is life and this is what we have. And it's just a constant letting go and coming back into the present moment and being comfortable with where you are. So
That is the hard part
mm,
is like embracing yourself, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you're really the only one that you got. You're the only one that can control your future. You're the only one that can control your actions, your reactions, your words. Um, and so it's a lot. It's a lot to embrace yourself. And it's also a lot to do that shadow work, like look at yourself and be like, I was an asshole.
yeah.
I was a terrible person in this part of my life. I did terrible things. Um, but then you come to a point where you start again embracing all of those. Like you can't have
All
good with
those parts, right?
right. And so I feel like when you have a lot of bad things happen to you when you're younger, that you can either continue going bad or
Yeah.
all those bad things like really set you up like to be like, oh man, I went through all that stuff when I was younger and now I can really focus on who I really want to be now. um, so again, you always have that choice, embracing your good qualities and your bad
Any
qualities.
bad qualities.
Yeah. Because it's always great to be like, oh, I got great hair and I got a great ass or, whatever. I got a great personality, but it's hard to say, oh, man, like I was a terrible person to that
Yeah.
person back in
Hmm.
school, or I bullied this person, or I judged that person before I know I've done it. I've judged people before I even know them.
Oh
Usually I'm
yeah.
pretty good, but there are people that I get completely wrong, and then you kick yourself because it ends up to be one of the persons that like you really connect with. And you're like, oh, I judged you way too far. But yeah, but truly embracing like who you really are. Like you're going to mess up. That's totally fine because you are the only one that really holds on to that, right? It's not anybody else. Nobody else is
Yeah.
really into it. So embrace your good, embrace your bad, and, just love yourself no matter what.
There was let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I should have had this ready. I don't. Hold on one second.
All right.
We're gonna close out with it. We're gonna close out with this because I loved, please tell me, where would it be? Where would it be? Where would it be? I'm trying to get to it fast. Son of a biscuit. Did I not send it to you? Hold on. Sorry. It was what I put on the little flyer to announce you. And I thought it was just, in the midst of feeling lost and defeated, a little voice whispered from inside, you need to save yourself. So she did. The spirit of life was calling. I love that you wrote that. You're a real inspiration to people. And I appreciate you coming out of your comfort zone
Oh,
and
I
coming
know. I
on
was so
here
nervous.
with me today. Hey, look, you stepped into that resistance and you did
I
it.
did. I did it.
Yeah. Yeah, I could tell you were nervous at first, but look, you've just stepped into your flow and you're just who you
Well,
authentically are. And I appreciate you taking the
I
time today.
appreciate you too. And
Yeah.
it's easy to talk to you because I feel like I already know you. So when
Right.
you
I know. I
actually
felt like
give
I know
me,
you too.
yeah, no, I just can't wait to actually give you a real hug. So
I know. Yes. Yes. Okay. So, Kelly Raviston, Haley
yes,
is coming to see you. Okay.
set the date.
Bring Miranda too. Bring Miranda too.
Yes,
Kelly's
Miranda.
got cool cousins. I love her
I
cousins.
know we have a good family.
You do. Yeah. 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 And Jan, she's wonderful too.
Yes,
Well, thank you for coming on today.
you're
And
welcome.
guys, this was conversation, I think 34 with Stay Wild Child. And we'll actually be back next week because I figured out my little technical difficulties. And hey, if you're local DFW, we've got some great events coming up. We've got a witchy flash mob coming up, which is too fun. And then we've got an event where some healers are coming in from different parts of the country. It's on October the 25th. And so invite your favorite friends to Stay Wild Child because this is a group to bring women together, to encourage women to um, give them the permission to stand into their superpowers, to, talk about your business in our group. This is all about us supporting other women. And I love dudes too. Seriously, I love men. But I think a lot of times, like, Haley put herself on the back burner for a period of time. And I think we do that. I think we get caught in the shoulds and, or what we think the should be. And we put ourselves on the back burner. And it's so important, man. When we take care of ourselves, we are so good. It's a ripple effect to everyone. And that's what Stay Wild Child is about. So playing, having fun, stepping into your superpowers. That's what we're about. So invite other women to this group. And I appreciate you, Haley. You have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you.
Thanks,
You
girl.
too.
Mwah. Kisses. Namaste.
Love. Namaste. Much love.
Much love. Bye.
Bye.